up anywhere around church people, you will have heard these terms before. Spiritual maturity, right? Well, in a minute, I'm going to talk a little bit more about spiritual maturity after we hear a few songs.
I could just sit and wait for all your goodness, hope to feel your presence, and I could just stay right where I am and hope to feel something again. And I could hold on to who I am and never let you change me from the inside. And I could be safe, oh, I could be safe here in your arms and never leave home, never let these walls down. But you have called me higher, and you have called me deeper, and I'll go where you will lead me, Lord. 'Cause you have called me higher, and you have called me deeper, and I'll go where you will lead me, Lord, where you lead me. Where you lead me, Lord. And I could hold on to who I am and never let you change me from the inside. And I could be safe, oh, I could be safer in your arms and never leave home, never let these walls down. But you have called me higher, and you have called me deeper, and I'll go where you will lead me, Lord. You have called me higher, and you have called me deeper, and I'll go where you will lead me, Lord, where you lead me. Where you lead me, Lord. And I will be yours, oh, I will be yours for all my life. And I will be yours, oh, I will be yours for all my life. And I will be yours, oh, I will be yours for all my life. So let your mercy, I will be yours, Lord, I will be yours for all my life. So let your mercy light the path before me. 'Cause you have called me higher, you have called me deeper, and I'll go where you will lead me. Oh, yeah, you have called me higher, you have called me deeper, and I'll go where you will lead me, Lord. Oh, yeah, you have called me higher, you have called me deeper, and I'll go where you will lead me, Lord. Oh, yeah, you have called me higher, you have called me deeper, and I'll go where you will lead me, Lord, where you lead me. Where you lead me, Lord. Where you lead me. Yeah. Where you lead me, Lord.
So a lot of folks, having grown up around church, probably have heard the word spiritual maturity before. It's nothing to avoid, and it's not a topic to avoid. Problem is, I think living in the buckle of the Bible Belt, that oftentimes We are very confused about this. And there were some great men that I follow. I follow their writings and their leadership. Clint Archer, Carey Nieuwhof, and just a combination of a couple of different writings that these men spoke to. One of them was about spiritual maturity, and it's interesting. They looked at it a little different. What spiritual maturity is not. Truth is, a lot of us grew up in a church context, a religious context, where maybe we were confused too. Because, let's face it, a lot of folks even thought the amount of times that you ended up at a church building or a church service had something to do with you being spiritually mature. And if you dig in the New Testament, I think you'll find that's not true. So just let me give you 5 things real quick. It was from a great article I read several years ago. There are several false indicators of spiritual maturity, right? Several false indicators. One is this, pride in how much Bible you know. Now, this was going on a long time. In other words, spiritual truths they're great, but just resting on them and omitting the part that Jesus said about how we treat people kind of cancels that out, right? Paul said in 1 Corinthians 8:1, now regarding your question about food that has been offered to idols, yes, we know that we all have knowledge about this issue, but while knowledge makes us feel important, it is love that strengthens the church. So just because you know a lot of Scripture, just because you know a lot of doctrine, you may have your systematic theology all in order, but if you're not loving people, if all you have is knowledge without any compassion, without any mercy, without any grace, I think you're confused about spiritual maturity. Number 2, here's the second thing. This is a sign of counterfeit maturity. Truth without grace. Truth without grace. Now, building on what we just said in a very similar vein, I think you'll understand that one of the things that Jesus was, for instance, in John 8:10, Jesus stood up again. He said to the woman, where are your accusers? Didn't even one of them condemn you? No, Lord, she says. And Jesus said, neither do I. Go and sin no more. In other words, Jesus was the perfect balance of truth and grace. He held people accountable, but he did it in such a loving manner. And all too often, in many church contexts, with many church people, with many Christian people, there's absolutely no grace. Lots of truth, lots of boldness. We see all your political Facebook posts, but we see absolutely no love. There's a third sign of spiritual immaturity, actually, that may mask itself as spiritual maturity, and that's just the opposite. You ready? Grace without truth. Grace without truth. It's this and this is a kind of a cultural undertow that we're living in right now, is tolerance. Be nice, be nice, be nice, but be nice at the point to where we sacrifice truth. That is unheard of. Again, in John 8:10, when Jesus was having a dialogue with a woman that was caught in the act of a sexual sin, Jesus didn't just say, oh my goodness, bless your heart, those bad men. No, he did that along with acknowledging her own messiness. There's a fourth sign of spiritual immaturity. And it looks like it might be a sign of maturity if you're using some of those religious leaders that Jesus called the Pharisees and the scribes, but it's not. Number 4 is harshness towards outsiders while cutting insiders slack. All that means is this, is that we are nicer to the people within our buildings, our church people, our fellow Christians. We're nicer to them than we are the people that actually are the messiest, that people that need Jesus. I am so amazed. Matter of fact, my son Micah, he spoke to that a couple of weeks ago here at Crossbrand about how believers, how followers of Jesus are supposed to be responding to the messiness in non-believers. But yet so oftentimes we want to hold the world and By that I mean people that are not following Jesus. We want to hold them to the standard that we hold followers of Jesus to. And it's interesting, that is not a scriptural concept at all. Jesus was definitely loving and kind to messy outsiders. But it seems like sometimes those of us that hang out in our holy huddles, in the safety of our steeples and our stained glass and our padded pews, sometimes we go easy on the people that we should be holding accountable, our brothers in grace. But yet we're so hard on those people we work with, and we're so hard on those people outside of the walk of faith that don't look like us, that don't believe like us. There's a fifth and final, and I kind of like this one. This is a telltale sign that you're probably not as mature as you think you are. You ready? It's telling people that you're mature. I love it when the author talked about this. One of the number one indicators of spiritual immaturity is thinking that you are. It's bragging about your biblical strength. It's bragging about the fact that you have this heritage and this legacy of faith. It's bragging about all of your church and Sunday school attendance records, when in the truth of the matter is possibly the greatest commandment that Jesus gave is something that is foreign to you. We're not going to be valued or judged even on that final day when every Christian will stand before Jesus by how often we did and sounded religious. But I think if you'll find and follow Jesus, you'll be judged the way you treated people, by the way you held his word. Grace and truth, truth and grace. I hope you'll think about this. There's an online host that is there to take care of any questions you might have or prayer requests. God bless you, and we'll see you next time.